Howdy y'all, my name is Daniel. I'm with Mad Love Concepts. As requested by one of the viewers in my previous video on using hotkeys with the Stream Deck and Logic Pro, I'm going to go ahead and do a follow-up video on how you can use MIDI CC commands with Logic Pro using your Stream Deck. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive into the bulk of this video. I'm going to minimize my face so you can see the entirety of this screen. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to the Launchpad and launch our Stream Deck. And basically what I'm going to need to do is first go to this little Stream Deck button. It takes us to the Stream Deck store, and we're going to go to plugins. Once we're there, we can type in MIDI, and what we need is the Audio MIDI button by Tom Kelly. I've already installed this, so I'm just going to X this out. Okay, so now that we're done downloading the MIDI pack, I'm going to go ahead and open the Logic Pro folder, and we're going to control click and create two more folders within this folder. So now that I've got that, I'm going to go ahead and access the clip art I've made here, and we're going to put in track 1 and track 2. You can actually download these clip arts from a Google Drive link that I'll leave in the description if you so desire. So within these track folders, we're going to populate them with 4 MIDI CC buttons. I'm going to label each of them respectively 1 through 4. So let's go ahead and fast forward through that. Okay, so as you can see, I've got my track 1 and track 2 folders, and inside the folders I've got plugins 1, 2, 3, and 4, as well as a few extras for some teaching. So if you click on these plugins and access the MIDI CC information down below, you're going to see that it has the title, MIDI channel, MIDI control change, mode, and then main CC value. And the only one that we're going to actually be touching is the MIDI control change. Here we have 0 bank select. We don't really want to pay too much attention to the words next to the numbers. It's only the number that really matters to us at this moment. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with 0, and then when we go to plugin 2, we'll change it to 1, plugin 3, 2, plugin 4, we'll change to 3, so on and so forth. And with each MIDI command that you make, you're just going to need to bump up one number, and you'll be able to go all the way up to 119. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and jump into Logic. I'm going to open up my Podcrest template, and then we're going to go to the Preferences tab, Advanced Tools, and we're going to go to all of these options where you pretty much want to enable all of them. It's just beneficial for you in the long run to be able to have those extra options. So I'm going to hit Option Shift K, and we're going to go to the Controller Assignments window, where I want to hit the plus sign under the zone column, and we're going to call it track 1. So essentially what we're going to do is we're going to hit the plus sign under Control. We're going to click Learn Mode, and then here in the mixer panel we're going to choose our first plugin. So it has read that we pressed it, and now we're going to press plugin 1 on the MIDI CC button in our Stream Deck, and we're going to change the channel strip from selected track to fader bank. Once we've done that, we can deselect Learn Mode if it doesn't do it by itself, and now when you press plugin 1, it will enable or disable that first plugin. Another thing I want to show you real quick is that you can actually enable or disable certain functions within the plugins themselves. So if I open up the channel EQ and I want to click on Learn Mode and then enable the low cut, it has read that I pressed the low cut. So I can go ahead and press on one of the MIDI CC buttons I've created, and then change from selected track over to fader bank. I can deselect Learn Mode, and now whenever I press that button, it's going to enable or disable the low cut of my EQ. So that can give you some utility there. One of the things that I'd like to highlight about using MIDI CC commands as opposed to hotkeys, which I covered previously, is that the MIDI CC commands will actually work whenever Logic Pro is minimized, as opposed to the hotkeys, which can only work when Logic Pro is at the forefront of your computer. So if we wanted to create another parameter, hit Learn Mode and click on Mute over here on the microphone. We'll go ahead and program that as my second buffer MIDI CC button. We'll change it to Fader Bank, deselect Learn Mode, and now I can mute or unmute that microphone. So that can be beneficial to me, but what is super beneficial is that whenever I minimize this, I can press that button and it still operates the mute function. So it is currently unmuted, but I minimize and I'm going to press that button again. Now I open it back up and it is currently muted. So you can have some utility there in that if you're live streaming and you can't have Logic Pro at the forefront of your computer, then you still have the option to toggle the mutes, toggle the plugins, toggle individual features within those plugins. Really, there's a myriad of operations that you can control using the MIDI CC button. And I'm sure you'll figure that out, as I have undoubtedly opened up many doors of utility for you. Alrighty, so with all that being said, I'm just going to do one more example and then I'll leave it to you to do the rest. So I'm going to go under Zone and hit the plus sign, and then I'm going to name it Track 2. In Track 2, we're going to go under the Control column, hit the plus sign, where I'm going to click Learn Mode. Then I'll hit the first plugin of my second track. After it's read that, we're going to change from Selected Track to Fader Bank, and then we're going to change 1 to 2. That simply means that we're changing the first plugin of the second track. So once I've done that, I can go ahead and go deselect Learn Mode, but not before pressing plugin 1 under the Track 2 folder. So after it's learned which button I want to program, now I can press that and enable or disable that particular plugin. Alrighty guys, well that's been it from me. You can take this as far as you want to and go ahead and put in the comment section what kind of commands you are able to program using your Stream Deck. I've enjoyed our time together and I know it's time for you to go, but I believe that you'll do wonderfully and I will see you on the horizon.